There's a common trap that a lot of smart, motivated people fall into. You find something that you know you should be doing. It can be investing, it can be starting a business, and you research it, you read about it, you watch the videos, and then you just keep watching. You just keep learning. You never actually act on it. I know this very well, first-hand experience, and in 2020 I made a £317 mistake that snapped me out of it, and the lesson I took away from it had nothing to do with investing. But to understand why that mistake mattered, I need to take you a few years before 2020. If you don't know me, hey, my name is David and I'm an aspiring entrepreneur based in the UK, in London. Well, this wasn't always the case. I only moved to the UK in 2017 when I graduated high school in Czech Republic and I started uni in Newcastle. Because I moved to the UK by myself and I was an international student, I didn't have all the privileges that British students had. For example, I had no access to maintenance loan and I had no guarantor. All of my family lives back in Czech Republic, which means I have to pay a year's worth of rent upfront. Now, luckily I was able to do that because my parents started a savings account for me when I was born, they were contributing to it over the 18 years, and then I was kind of handed the keys to it when I was 18 years old. Luckily I didn't spend any of it, I was saving it for my studies. And so when I moved to the UK, I was able to pay for a year of rent. I knew what that meant. I had 3 months left of savings, and within those 3 months, I had to find a job very quickly. Once I had that part-time job, I also had to save the money I made. I couldn't just go out and spend it all, because I knew in a year's time, I'm again going to have to pay the big lump sum. I didn't think of this as a financial strategy. It wasn't something I was choosing to do, I just had to. It was survival mode for me. But without knowing it, I was building a foundation that mattered a lot in years to come. Fast forward to 2019. At this point, I'm on my placement, I live in London, and I have my first full-time job. At this point, I am already quite interested in investing. I have read lots of books about it, I have watched loads of videos, I keep watching videos every week. But I haven't acted on anything. Why haven't I acted on anything? Well, because I was scared. I was scared of the implications this may have on me. I was mainly scared of making a mistake. I wasn't so afraid of making a mistake and losing money due to the stocks dropping. I was actually scared of taxes. You see, I was not a British citizen. I was a Czech citizen living in the UK, wanting to invest in US stocks. Now this, in my head, was a tremendous level of complexity. It also involved 3 currencies, 3 countries, multiple nationalities, multiple tax systems, and I just didn't know how to navigate it or where to start at all. So instead of acting and starting investing, I just kept researching for years and years. I kept watching YouTube videos about what's the best way of investing, what's the best strategy, what are the hot stocks, but I never actually bought any of them. That's when the 2020 pandemic hit. It was in February 2020 that I finally felt the kick. And I felt like I have to start investing. You see, I already understood that stock markets go through downturns, but in the long term, as long as you have a long-term vision, they tend to recover. In February 2020, the stock market started falling quite rapidly, and I saw this as a great opportunity to jump into it because I thought, this is a great discount, and I already have some savings set aside. What's more, I was expecting this to fall, because rumors about this COVID-19 virus were spreading since I think November 2019, that's why it was called COVID-19, and nobody knew what was going to happen. I kept watching the stock market and I was expecting the fall, and I was so surprised that it still wasn't happening, and it took until February for stocks to start falling. Once they did, I jumped in. I took £317 from my savings and I bought shares of the S&P 500. I remember having a conversation with peers on my placement program, and some of them were saying that this would probably be the best thing to do right now, take some money and invest it into the stock market. And I joined into the conversation and I said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I just bought about £300 worth of shares. And they looked at me not understandingly because they were like, how do you have £300 spare? Because we were placement students. We were paid £18,000 a year. That is not a lot of money to live on in London. I thought about it since quite a lot. Like, why was it that I was different? Why was I able to do this and they weren't? It's because of the foundation I had built years prior. It's not that they were irresponsible. They just never had the need to be so robust with their finances and to develop a strict budget and stick to it and build up savings. So actually this necessity turned out as a really strategic advantage for me. Here's the part I didn't expect. I jumped into the stock market when it was about 5% down in February 2020. I was thinking I jumped in at the best possible time. The stock market is down about 7%. I got an amazing discount, I've got such a good saving, and in about a year, it will all climb back up. Well, how wrong was I? Because a month later, it dropped another 16%. At this point, I wanted to buy more, but I already put my savings into the stock market. I didn't have anything else to put in. So I just kind of started buying as and when I could, maybe like £30 here and there once a month. But I just had to sit there with the mistake and watch my account be in the red for a long time. I took away from this 2 lessons. Number 1, markets move at a much slower pace than you would expect. Number 2, trying to time the market is a fool's game and you should never ever play it. The better approach is DCA, or dollar cost averaging. And yes, I've been hearing everybody talk about it, but nothing can teach you better than your own experience. No amount of research, no amount of videos can prepare you for what it feels like. And so, how did this turn out overall? Well, across 2020, I was able to accumulate 11.5 shares of S&P 500. I invested in VUSA ticker based on the London Stock Exchange, which cost me overall about £518. Today, in March of 2026, this is worth just shy of £1,100. I'm not sharing this to impress you. It's not a life-changing amount of money, not at all. But I'm sharing this to tell you that I was able to do this as a student on an £18,000 per annum salary, and the tax situation I was so afraid of turned out to be an ISA. ISA is just a very simple allowance here in the UK that essentially says as long as you invest less than £20,000 a year within ISA, you don't have to pay any taxes. How simple is that? It could have been solved with 5 minutes of the right resources. But how did I get the right resources? I only got them once I opened an account and they had the resources there. The key takeaway here is that I bought at the wrong time, but it still worked. So you don't need to be rich. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to have the perfect timing. You just need to start. But here's what I want to leave you with. The single biggest thing I have learned from this isn't about investing or the stock market at all. It's this. I learned from being in the stock market with £317, timing it wrong and sitting with it more than I ever could in months and months of watching videos and researching. You don't learn your way to the starting line. You just start and then you learn. I have lived this. I have this great story that can act as my learning, so surely I have this all figured out and I can apply this to all areas of my life, right? Well, no, and it's actually embarrassing to admit this, but I am making the exact same mistake again. For about 3 years, I have been wanting to start a YouTube channel, I've been wanting to start a business, I wanted to run my own business ever since I remember. And what have I done up till now? I keep watching videos. I keep finding what's the best idea to start a business about. I keep researching and I keep being stuck in this tutorial loop. So it's only now, after 3 years of thinking about it, that I am finally taking action and I'm finally doing something about it. Right now I'm filming a YouTube video. Earlier in the week, I was reaching out to my network and trying to get them to buy some of my services. If that's you too, I want you to do one thing after watching this video. Just one. Open Stocks and Shares ISA, any account, any broker provider, it doesn't really matter, and buy one share of S&P 500. If you can't afford one share, just buy half of it. It's about, I wanna say, £40, or even just put £20 in. Just start. Not because £20 will change your life, but because being in the market will teach you so much more than any video can, including this one. The foundation is already there, you just have to act on it. If you connect with this story in any way, shape or form, it would mean a lot if you could leave a comment and subscribe to this channel so that you can follow how I tackle this in the YouTube space. I'll see you in the next one.